So Trump talked about this for yesterday. Basically, we attacked Venezuela. Now we got some details on this, and I want to go over with you exactly. It says, exclusive, CIA carried out drone strike on port facility on Venezuelan coast. And again, Trump already mentioned it, and now we're getting details. The CIA carried out a drone strike earlier this month, so this might have been a few weeks ago, on a port facility on the coast of Venezuela. Sources familiar with the matter told CNN, marking the first known U.S. attack on a target inside that country. And we just went through an interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene saying when Trump's poll numbers tank, when he becomes a lame duck, he'll try to trigger more wars. And I think this is what we're seeing right here. The drone strike, the details of which have not been previously reported, again, this is all new, targeted a remote dock on the Venezuelan coast that the U.S. government believed was being used by the Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua to store drugs and move them onto boats for onward shipping, the sources said. No one was present at the facility at the time it was struck, so there were no casualties according to the sources. And when I read through this stuff, the couple details stick out to me. So it says that the CIA did the drone strike, but doesn't necessarily confirm here. This is for first reading. Does the CIA also think that, say, this gang is involved, or is it just more the Trump people are saying, we think the gang's involved and you should attack it? That's my first question. And the other thing too, when they mention drugs, the Trump people always say, oh, we're doing this because we're going after fentanyl. But my understanding of the whole fentanyl thing is actually coming from China, coming up through Mexico, doesn't have to do with Venezuela. So these are actually really important details of where does the intel coming from? So at the moment, we know who did the strike, or well, that's what's reported who did the strike, but where is the intel coming from would be a question. Has it been confirmed? Also, what kind of drugs are we talking about? Because it does matter, because this would actually expose the Trump people as being liars. But remember, they always destroy all the evidence. Two sources said the U.S. Special Operation Forces provided intelligence. See, and then we get more details. So maybe not to see it. This says U.S. Special Forces provided intelligence support to the operation, okay, underscoring their continued involvement in the region. But Colonel Ali Weisskopf, a spokesperson for the U.S. Special Operations Command, denied that, saying, quote, Special Operations did not support this operation to include intel support. So already I'm thinking, okay, I'm just talking with you guys this through, and I want to hear your opinion on this also. Who's giving the intel to do this thing? Did the CIA indeed attack this? So this is, separate, say, from U.S. Special Forces, basically. President Trump appeared to first acknowledge the attack in an interview last week. So basically, Trump's the leaker. It's essentially what it is. He can't keep his mouth shut.
And we just talked out, I don't know if you read or you saw, they have a big plant or a big facility where they send where the ships come from. 2 nights ago, we knocked that out. So we hit them very hard.
That initially attracted little attention, though he offered few specifics, including when reporters asked directly about it on Monday. And before, it was basically a short thing. We attacked or whatever is on the radio. The strike could significantly escalate tensions between the U.S. and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who has been pressuring to step down through an aggressive military campaign. The U.S. has launched strikes, destroying more than 30 boats. And there was just another one today that I heard about in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. So that's including both areas here, right? Caribbean and Eastern Pacific, in which it has described as a counter-narcotics campaign. But again, we're destroying all the evidence. And Trump has ordered a blockade of sanctioned oil tankers coming to and leaving Venezuela. Trump had also repeatedly threatened to carry out strikes inside Venezuela, but until the CIA attack earlier this month, the only known U.S. Strikes on Venezuelan targets were against suspected drug trafficker boats in the international waters. And the other question I have, as we were just talking about this, how did they describe this dock? CIA carried out drone strike earlier this month on a port facility, right? Because I don't know, let's keep going at it, because where exactly is this port facility? Is there a city involved or a region? That's the other thing I was thinking about. The CIA declined to comment. CNN has asked the White House, U.S. Special Operations Command, and Venezuela's Ministry of Communications and Ministry of Foreign Affairs for comment, which makes sense, right? You basically ask people from the U.S., people from Venezuela, tell us what's going on. Is this indeed an accurate thing? Trump acknowledged in an interview on December 26th that the U.S. had knocked out some type of big facility where ships come from, okay? And he has talked about this administration's campaign against Venezuela.
The explosion in Venezuela that you mentioned in a radio interview. Did the military do that? Can you share more details about
Well, it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
Asked about it again on Monday, he said the U.S. attack, quote, in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. So Trump's, and when Trump says this kind of stuff, it's this whole thing is crazy. Okay? I just want to make this clear. This whole thing is crazy, okay? And it's also crazy that like Trump's the one who's basically saying all of this stuff. And then the next question is you would want to confirm this because it's actually pretty important news to talk about. Are we attacking Venezuela? Who's doing it? Why are we doing it? Right? Where's the evidence? Did Congress know about this? That would be another, I think, obvious question. Is it just you and you alone? I mean, who's ordering this exactly? But he declined to comment when asked about whether the attack was conducted by the military or the CIA. And then that's where the reporting comes in. At least right now it says the CIA, but we'll see. So we hit all the boats and now we hit the area, Trump said Monday. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement. That is no longer around. Okay, I just saw him say this yesterday. It was really strange. Everything is strange that the Trump people do. That's why I'm going over it exactly so you can see it for yourself. And I want to hear what questions you have. I'm telling you the questions I have as I go through it. One of the sources said this strike was successful in that it destroyed the facility and its boats. Okay, so now we're saying this is just one source. Saying how much destruction there was, right? It destroyed the facility and its boats, but described it as largely symbolic since it's just one of many port facilities used by drug traffickers leaving Venezuela. It also appeared to attract little to no attention, even inside the country in real time. And I wonder then if we're going to move on from boats, now we're going to be hitting a bunch of these facilities. But I just want to make it really clear, guys. So my understanding of the fentanyl thing, if that's what you're going after, they'd be coming from China, going up through Mexico, okay? So the question would be, okay, if you're really serious about fentanyl, why don't you just start attacking Chinese boats? I mean, no, I'm serious. It's a legitimate question. So why are we attacking Venezuela? And the other thing that people don't ever really address that much in USA is like, let's say this stuff comes from Venezuela, and this is going to probably be more like white powder kind of stuff, right? Well, why don't we ever address demand in USA? Why is it like, oh, it's always people from Venezuela's fault? Like, well, if this is indeed the case, like, Americans still have to buy this stuff and use this stuff, or even the fentanyl thing, same situation, right? Am I making things up? I find that problem, and also the issue is like it ties into the economics of it. So if the American economy was much better, then people maybe not necessarily need to do all these kind of stuff to escape their life there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm frustrated by this whole thing because we're going to go over the war of this stuff, I think. Would be my guess, because again, if Trump's poll numbers are tanking, when in doubt, start a war, and then say, oh, well, we can't change the presidents now because we're at war. Trump earlier this year expanded the CIA's authorities to conduct operations in Latin America, including inside Venezuela, CNN reported. Right, I remember hearing about that, and I wonder if he's going to authorize to remove whatever leaders or whatever. And I wonder if the CIA is going to go along with Trump. I mean, come on. You don't have to follow like this kind of stuff. But even then, the U.S. military had the legal authority to conduct strikes against suspected traffickers at sea, not on land, as CNN had reported. Okay, this is why this land thing becomes really important. Is there any legal authority? Like what is the evidence that we're using for this? What's the justification? The Trump administration has offered varying justifications, so I guess the reasonings keep changing. For the campaign of Venezuela, which has involved massive buildup of military assets in the Caribbean. This costs a lot of money, just to be aware. And I always tell you the same thing, guys. If you wonder why your life doesn't get better in USA, it's because we spend a bunch of money on this kind of stuff, right? Have pointed to counter-narcotics imperative, but Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, told Vanity Fair in an interview that the boat strikes were aimed at getting Maduro to, quote, cry uncle. The Venezuelan leader has shown no signs of relinquishing power. So they're saying this is more about removing Maduro, not necessarily about fighting any sort of, drug trade. Top officials have made clear publicly and in briefings to lawmakers that they intend to continue targeting suspected and they keep using the word suspected, or when you destroy basically any witnesses or any evidence, right? So we just don't know. And I keep telling them that all the whole time. I don't know. I really don't. And I want to hear what Congress says. And I've just, if we're going to be doing military operations, is this like a grave and imminent threat? These small boats off the coast of Venezuela. Top officials have made clear publicly and in briefings to lawmakers that they intend to continue targeting suspected drug smugglers using a similar playbook to the one used for killing terrorists during the global war on terror, a campaign in which the CIA played a crucial role too. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has openly compared drug traffickers to Al-Qaeda. And already I'm just like, does that even make sense? But I'll let you guys be the judges of that. So the question would be, do you think these gangs in Venezuela are the same as Al-Qaeda and therefore we should attack them? And if you want to play that game, right, well, you could argue you could attack any country where there's anything that you don't like if you want to play that game. Well, why don't we just attack Mexico at this point? Because there's certainly smugglers there. Again, my understanding, if you're really concerned about, say, fentanyl or whatever, come in from China, attack Mexico. So either attack Mexico or attack China if you're really concerned about this stuff, right? You could make the case that the Venezuela thing is not really about drugs at all. It's about oil. You want to replace Maduro, get your own person in there and take control of the oil or whatever, right? We're going after oil tankers. I'm just telling you what it says. So that's the question is, do you think Al-Qaeda is the same as this people in Venezuela? Quote, these narcotics are the Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere. It's according to Hegseth, I guess, was this. The secretary said at the Reagan National Defense Forum earlier this month, and we are hunting them with the same sophistication and precision that we hunted Al-Qaeda. So this story just broke a few hours ago. I wanted to go over the details with you, and I still have a lot of questions on this stuff, and you should too. And even when we get answers, like, you also want to ask what Congress thinks about this stuff. This is just breaking just a few hours ago. So I want to hear your thoughts. I do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you in the next video.